Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today I'm Masechtas Bava Metzia daf Kuf Tes Zayin. We're going to begin on Kuf Tes Zayin Amud Aleph, about 12 lines from the top. Hahu Gavr, basically in the middle of the short Amud over here. So there's a story of a person, the Chabul Sakina di Ashkavta Michavre, that as we've been discussing, there's certain times you can take a mashgon from a person, and even when you do, you have to make sure to give it back at night, during the day, because this is something which they typically use. So the Gemara tells us that there was this person who was a butcher, and he took his knife, and this was obviously something which he typically would have needed. Says Rashi, he took the knife shel beis hamit b'chayim shemekabtzin bo basar. This person who's a butcher, he cuts meat. So askmei diabai amalei zil hadre. So he said, you have to give it back. Kli shoisim bo yoichel nefesh. As we said in yesterday's daf, just like you can't take a millstone, so too you're not allowed to take anything which is needed for oichel nefesh. So this knife, in which its purpose was for this butcher to be able to cut meat, so that's something which is oichel nefesh, therefore you had no right to take it. And therefore you have a chiyuv to have to give it back, just like any other thing that's oichel nefesh. That was the shita of Abaya. Says Rashi, Tavehu ladin al choivcha. So you need to basically redo the court case and prove it in court. Im moiducha o im ein o im yesh edim yishalim v'imlav yishavish shlos hesas. Okay. So that was the din of Abaya. Rabbi Omer lo tzarich l'meikim b'din Allah. It's not necessary to have to go and redo the court case, etc. Instead, you can claim up until its value. Says Rashi, since it's a mashkan shemishkanu haya, there's no witnesses that this mashkan belonged to this guy, and therefore yachalitain l'kuchi biyadi. You can always just claim, actually, I bought this knife from him. Therefore, lotzarach hameka bedina lohi to kanele mashkan, because actually he's kind of the mashkan. So therefore, obviously, up until the value of how much the loan is he's able to keep this knife. Obviously, if the knife is much more expensive than the loan, that would be one thing. But you can certainly keep up until the value of the mashkin, of the loan. Ad kidei demayin. So Vaya Leisli Ahi Svara, understand, Vaya doesn't hold like this. Maishna Miahanu Izi Diachli Chushlo Ben Harda. There was a story of these goats that were consuming this peeled barley in Naharda. It says Rashi, Sa'arin Kalufim, barleys which were peeled. Yasamara, and the master came, the Chushla, the Tafasahu. So this person who was the owner of this peeled barley grabbed the goats away as collateral. The Katayin Tuva, and he was claiming quite a bit. Yamar Avodah Shmuel, Yachol Litain Ad Kedei Demand. So we say Beferish that when it comes to a mashkin, you are able to, because there's no witnesses, to be able to get Ad Kedei Demand. So it's clear he must hold like this svara. Well, there's a difference. Hasam over there, La Midi da Avda La Shuli La Ugrihu. This is not something which is not typical. We usually don't lend out or rent out goats. And therefore, the fact it's not normally lent out or rented, says Rashi, She'enda Maskir or Mashali Zim Shalai. Person just typically doesn't do this to his goats. Hilkach, therefore, so why does he have them? You can't say that maybe he's borrowing them. So maybe, therefore, Litain Lekuchin Hin Biyadi. Maybe he actually bought them off of you. There's no witnesses that he took these goats from your property. And therefore, he could always taina that it's that he actually bought these things from you. And therefore, he's able to keep them up until there. But hacha, here, when we're talking about our case, about this knife, this is something in which sometimes is lent out, sometimes is rented out. And therefore, he holds you can't make this svara of L'kuchin hin biyadi because you can always just say, what do you mean? You just borrowed it or something. The Shalach Rab Huna Baravin, Devarim Hasoin Lahashil Haskir, things that are typically borrowed or rented, Yom L'kuchin hin biyadi, and all of a sudden someone turns around and says, actually, I bought it from you. Einoy Neman. You're not Neman in that case. Okay. Rabbi Leisle has svara. So understand, Rabbi doesn't hold to the svara. It seems to be pretty logical. But Rabbi apik zuga the tsarbel of a sifra de gadata miyasmi. So he actually took these svarim or misparayim. Actually, these are referring to these shears that are used to shear wool. And he also took books of a gadata from Yisayim, but Rabbi Hosel Hashal Haskir. And these were things that were borrowed and rented. So Hainami Kiman Demi Pagma Kapti Inshi V'loy Moishli. You're right. I actually do hold of this. However, in this case, because this knife could easily become a pagam, there could be a nick on this knife. This is a very expensive knife and a very important knife, which serves a very important role for shechita. And therefore, because of that, it's considered to be like kli shemalach del isser when it comes, which is machmas chisarn kis rather. It's something which is a huge monetary loss. And therefore, maybe this is actually something which typically will not be rented out. And therefore, since it's typically not rented out, it must be he bought it from him, and therefore he can collect that up until it's worth. Okay, TA12. Be'eza svara nechachu abayi v'rabba im yochel litoin b'sakina, that they argue about this knife. Shemachziku avor choiv ligvois akidei domov. So what is this machlokas? So they both hold that if it's something that's typically rented and borrowed out, so therefore you can't say lukuchin hin biadi. However, in this situation, it's questionable. As Rashi said, this is question number TA12. Is this knife something which is typically borrowed or rented? Oh, kivan demifgama, since it could become poigim kapti inchi the nemad b'migdal akoach. Therefore, because there's a good chance that it can get ruined, so therefore a person will not lend this out. Therefore, so what is it doing by this guy? It must be because it was taka bought from him. And therefore, that's the reason why, according to him, you're able to collect all the way up until it's worth akadei demei. Hanulach hamakabel. And with that said, we are now continuing with the next Amud, which is Kuf Tes Zayin, Amud Beis, and the new Mishnah, short parak, which will pretty soon finish this Masechta. Habayis v'haliyah. So the 10th parak, just like Bava Kama, so too Bava Metzia and Bava Basra, each one of them have 10 prakim respectively, and obviously some of them are more longer than others, and this is clearly the shortest. So Habayis v'haliyah shel shnayim. So you have a 2-floor house, and Rashi says, Kagan shnei achim shecholku. Let's say you have a house. Like, why would you have a house where 2 different owners? So maybe they're brothers, and let's say one inherited the bottom level, one had the top level. Unfortunately, shenafel, the house fell down. So shneim cholkin be'etzim v'abanim v'offer. So because apparently we don't know what else to do, we're not going to say Moshe Mechabaraya. We're just going to talk about this. So everything's divided up: the wood, the stones, the earth. V'royin, and we also will calculate elu avadim hasuyes l'shtaber. If we have stones that are broken, and somehow the way that they're broken, we can maybe determine if it was a collapse that originated from the top floor or from the bottom floor. Let's say one of these 2 people recognize their stones, Neutlan, they can take them. And of course, that's going to be part of the cheshbon. That's not going to be like they get extra. No, if they're able to recognize certain stones, we'll see if they're the broken ones or the whole ones. So then they're able to obviously collect them, and therefore that's not going to be something to worry about. Okay, so let's look in Rashi when it says Roin Elu Avanim Ru'uyas Lihishtaber. Okay, actually, let's see. Elu Avanim Hasuyas Lihishtaber. So says Rashi, Im Shel Elyoin Im Shel Tachtoin V'Kol Afi Hamafoilas. It all is telling on how it fell. She'im Nechbat Habayis Misaidai. Let's say the house fell down from its foundation. Misaido B'Nafel Tachtav HaChayma. The bottom wall fell B'Mkayma. Yeshel Dasha Tachtainis Nishtabru. So basically, it's possible that there was a problem with the foundation that collapsed, and therefore it just stayed in its place. So therefore the whole thing just fell down, which means maybe there's a problem with the bottom floor. The Im Nechbat HaKaisel, that's a case of B'chavasa. B'chavata, Rashi says, that let's say it falls on like a rod, Lahalan Kemakel, Shahai Oimid Zakuf. It basically topples over like sideways. V'nafel shehel yoinai shel kaisel nafel halon mimenu harbe. So because of that, it could be that the top ones caused everything else to break because when it toppled over. Okay, so that's what Rashi says. The Gemara is going to explain this now a little bit more. So medetani royin, since we say that we have to calculate and figure this out, mechlal deika l'meika molayhu, there must be a way to be able to determine the way that if you look at the rubble, you can see how it fell and where the original problem started from. So ibachavasa, so if it fell straight down, in that situation, as we said, it's possible that it's from a foundation issue. Ibachavata, if it fell down nafel like a rod, like it toppled over to its side, you can figure out each way. So you hachi reisha malcholkin. If you can figure out how it fell and therefore one person is responsible, so then why does the Mishnah begin by saying that you divide everything equally? L'chayra, all you need to do is discern how it fell, and therefore you'll be able to figure out who's going to be responsible and who's going to collect. So the Gemara says like this. Next, so let's see. Ibachavata nafel again. If let's say that it fell down b'chavata, which means like on the side, like a rod. So ilasa itbor. So the top bricks are the ones that are broken, because if you can imagine the top, if it topples over based on gravity, these top bricks are more likely to be the ones that are broken because it's going to fall much further, as opposed to the ones that are on the bottom of it topples over to the side. It's only going down. It's only moving like maybe a couple inches or a couple feet down, and it may not be broken. So therefore, it should be understood that if it tipped over sideways, so then the top ones are the ones that are broken. That's the idea. Ibachavasa nafil, if it fell down like straight down, then tatiyasa itbor, then it's probably the bottom ones that broke, because based on the weight and everything just collapsed downward. So therefore, it was like a foundation problem. So then the upper bricks landed on the bottom bricks with force, breaking the bottom bricks, and the ones that are on the top, which are still good, are obviously belong to the top. So it's not necessarily because of who's responsible, but it's just the Metzia of the way it fell. You can determine which bricks are whose. So tzricha de nafel b'leilu. It actually fell down at night. So okay, so therefore you can't see, right? You don't have infrared goggles. So in that case, okay, so wait until the next morning. When the sun shines, you'll figure it out then. The problem is depaninhu. It was cleared away at night, and now the problem is, as it's cleared out, we can't figure this out. So v'litsiman paninhu v'lishayle. Okay, why don't you just ask the cleaning crew what exactly happened when they cleaned it up, and they'll be able to tell you exactly what happened. They'll figure it out that way. Yeah, well, the problem is the paninhu b'nei rishus harabim, that it was cleaned up in the rishus by the b'nei rishus harabim, and v'azul alma. So we don't know who actually cleared it off. We just have a bunch of people just pushed all the stones away, and now we don't know what to do. So we don't know who did it, and we don't know, therefore, how the house fell. That's the reason why the Reisha is where Micholkin. Okay, so let's see, Bereshus Deman Yasvin. Why don't we just look at where it fell and look at its present location? Just push it, say, okay, fine, they were pushed, but where are they now? Wherever they are, we should say Hamotzi Mechavel Varaya, and whose Reshus it is. It's a little bit hard to understand if you're talking about just ownership of a 2-floor building. What exactly does that mean? But this is the Gemara's question. And this makes sense. The answer is that it landed in the chutzner of both of them. In other words, there's equally dispersed stones, and therefore you can't say that one is on more person's property than the others. And therefore, since it fell in the Rishus Harabim, we have no idea, the stones are now in the Rishus Harabim, we have no idea exactly, again, who moved them there, and also we don't know, can't say what's with Chavaraya. So, in the case of Shutvin, people aren't makbid, says Rashi, to basically allow other items that belong to me, because we're partners, you'll allow me to put things into your chutzner and vice versa. The afkuri mafkule kol chad reshusei lagabi chavre laniach sham chvatzov. Hilchach, therefore, ki nami yasin reshus techad minayu. Even if it's true that it's found in one person's reshus, that you can't say what's in Harai. Why? The reshus dehai nami yasvi, because since they're partners, they use each other's chutzner anyway. The whole kapitale milishali duchta. No one has any problems by, again, using each other's property, and therefore, for that reason, it's not a valid proof. So the other person, what exactly is his claim? In yes, those are your stones. So then pshita, obviously he gets to keep those stones. If the guy doesn't agree to it, why is he able to take them? Right? There's no witnesses that they are his stones. There's one person that claims they're his, but the other guy may be saying no. Person says, I don't know. So one is Bori, and the other one is a Shema. So what do we see? Bari v'Shema, Bari Adif, and therefore he can keep his stones. So to Rav Nachman, this we had before. One person says, you owe me $100. Well, I'm any day. And one says, I have no idea. So Rav Huna, Rav Yehuda, Amri Chayiv. Rav Nachman, Rav Yochanan, Amri Potter. And we said, why are you Chayiv? Because we say in this situation it's Bari Shema or Bari Adif. And therefore, Bari, the person who's Bari this, and that's the same thing as our Mishnah. The person is Bari by the stones, so he gets to keep his stones, the other one doesn't know. So, but that's only one opinion. Our Mishnah doesn't mention a machlokas. It apparently holds Bari Shem Bari Adif, which, according to Rabbi Yochanan, it's difficult. What exactly is the reason why? Again, you have the reason why you're chayiv, or your verse. Okay, let's look in Rashi. The Amri Yodeh Bari Shem Bari Adif chayiv l'shalem. When it says chayiv, it means you're obligated to pay, and it makes sense because you're a shema, so you have to pay. Rabbi Yochanan Potter, you don't have to pay, which seems not like our Mishnah. Okay, so the reason why of this case is not because of Bari Shem Bari Adif, it's because there's a chiyuv shvua deraisa. Hachanami can go and sheish eshek shvua b'neim. So heichidami eshek shvua. What is that case? And we saw this verbatim previously. Kedarabba, Yemar Rabba, Manu biyadacha. A person says, "You owe me $100. V'loimer ein locha biyadi el chamishim." I only owe you 50. B'shar ein yodeh. I don't know about the other 50. So the question is that a case of halach? Is that a case, or is it a case of moed v'mixas that you would have to make a shvuah? So the truth is, since even though you admitted on half, the other half you don't know, and therefore, since you don't know in the second half, therefore you're chayav to make a shvuah. But since you don't know about the second half, you can't make that shvuah, and therefore you apply the din, and that's the din here as well. But Maybe it's based on the broken bricks. So Alma, what do we see? Clearly, the person who says, I don't know, he has a lower claim. So the other guy who is actually speaking and knows about these broken bricks, he has a worser claim. Midahani yada. In fact, he only knows these. He knows our whole tvei lo yada. He doesn't know anything else. Su leisle. The idach kuhu dehech ninhu. The rest of the whole bricks should be able to go to the other person. The fact that what he knows must be he only knows this, but everything else is not good. Actually, it's totally on the cheshvan of the full ones. So he says, I understand. He's not gaining anything by recognizing his bricks, but the whole bricks are being split evenly anyway. So so either because they're better quality bricks, inami tina dema'avda, because of the cement. Says Rashi, yesh tich oisin mimenu levenim shuvdin umagubel yafem mechavero. So there's some in which are better to catch the cement than the other. Okay. So as we said before, the notion of b'toishin yachol shalim. So we said that, and so too our Mishnah, a case where he is made it to some of the bricks, and now has a chiyuv shvua and says, I don't know about the other half. Okay. Weiter. Let's see the next Mishnah. It says Masnisin, Abayis Valiyam. Again, you have these two people, one who lives on the top floor, one on the bottom floor, and Nivchasa Aliyah. And the top caved in, which means only the top floor broke, but the bottom floor is perfectly fine for living. Vein Baal Habayis Roitzel Sakin. So the Baal Bayis doesn't want to fix the upper level. So Hari Baal Aliyah Yorid Vidar Lamata. So let's say they have this rental agreement. So you can say, listen, I'm going to live on the bottom until you fix the top floor. So I'm supposed to have a place to live. The top floor fell apart. So if you're not willing to fix it, then I'm going to live on the bottom floor. Rav Yosi Amar Hatachta Noisin Esa Tikra. The bottom one will provide the pitch. The Elyoin Esa Maziva. And the top one will be able to put this Maziva for his floor, above the ceiling of the first floor. So basically there's two parts of each level, and the bottom portion, the guy has to do the tikra, and the Elyon has to do the mazeva. Okay, says the Gemara. So nifchasa, let's say the house collapsed. So bekama, how much collapsed on the top floor? So Rabbi Baruba. If the majority fell down, that's when you can move downstairs. Even if all you have is 4 tfachim that fell, that's enough already. You don't live up the top floor. So Rabbi Baruba, only if it's mamish the majority of the top floor. But if it's only 4 tfachim, that's not enough. Why? Because Adam Dar, like we find a lot of homes with stairs. Some people, you live somewhat on the top and some on the bottom. Okay, so you lost 4 tfachim. So, okay, you can still live on the top floor, whatever's left, and then we'll figure out what you're missing on the top, and we'll section off that small amount area for the bottom. The chetzel amal. Shmuel Emer Barba, inadam dar chetzel amal to the chetzel amal. No, even if it's only 4 tfachim that's missing on the top, the person doesn't want to live under these circumstances. He was living on 1 floor, and now he doesn't want to live on 2 floors. What exactly is this contract? Did he say, you get this upper floor, so if this upper floor doesn't exist anymore, so the contract has expired, then we should say, I'm sorry, that's it. He just said, I'm going to give you top floor. So then, then he could be able to rent out another room. So Marav Aliyah Zu. Hitaka did say this one, so then what's the problem? He said Aliyah Zu Shani Maskilcha, that I'm renting to you. Ki Salka Salik Bahada, that he would while he was still standing. V'chinochis Chus Bahada, says Rashi. So what happened? Ki salka ba'oida kayemes, while it's still standing, fine. The chinachta im tifchais, if it falls, nachas bahada gur babayas. So again, the idea basically is, therefore, the stipulation was that if it fell, that he's going to have to address this issue and provide for him another floor. And if he doesn't build it, he can live on the bottom floor. Aliyah zu shall fine. So that's what he's talking about. So ki salka sal bahada. You're basically saying that if it falls down, you can live in the bottom floor. So what's the chiddush? I'm renting out to you the floor above this floor. Because therefore the top floor is connected and necessary to exist. It needs a bottom floor. If there's no bottom floor, if you somehow magically remove the bottom floor, the top floor is going to fall down and crash. And therefore, obviously, we're talking about a situation where the ground floor is needed for the top floor. The person said to his friend, Dolis shall gabi parsek zeh ani moichacha. So I'm renting this peach tree. V'nekar haparsek, and then it was ripped out. And he said, Taki, you're chayiv in that case based on this language. Lahamid loy parsek. You have to provide for him a new peach tree. Kolzman shahad dolis kaima. As long as Rashi's dolis gefen mudleis, this hanging grapevine is still existent. Boy Rav Abu Bar Momos. We continue to Kuf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph. Kishudar Lavadahu Dar can be Ikara or Dilmashtem Darim. The question is, if he's going to live on the bottom floor, does he have to kick the bottom guy out? Or, because let's say it's a huge bottom floor, he can live with this other guy. Lavadahu Dar by himself, because that's how he was living by himself before. Or maybe not. Maybe he can live with him. Normally, because the guy on the bottom could say, Adaitel afkinan lo agrilach. I didn't have any intention to, as the landlord, to kick myself out of the property. And therefore, I certainly wouldn't have wanted that. The imtim slamish named Darin boy, let's say both of them could live on the bottom floor. Kashumish when he's getting to the bottom floor, derech psachim mishtamish or derech gagim mishtamish. Can he go through the regular front door like the landlord? Or does he have to somehow get to the top floor and then go down? So mi oimer minimi kara ma mi kara, like from before. Ma mi kara derech gagin hashnami derech gagin. The only way we're able to get to the top floor is through through the roof. Let's say you have to climb up some stairs or a ladder. So that's also, in order to get to the bottom floor, you have to go up and then go down. Big deal. You've always been going up. I accepted to go up. I wasn't expecting to go up and then go back down. I wasn't expecting to go up and down. So shtei lios, let's say it's 2 floors. Zual gab zumahu. In other words, it's actually 3 floors. So if the top one got ruined, nachis vidar betachtaina. So he ended up being better off and living on the second floor because it's easier now. He had to climb to get to the 3rd floor, now only has to get to the 2nd floor. If chistachtaina, now all of a sudden the 2nd floor collapsed. Mahu. What is the din lemislak legamri be'elyoina? Is he able to go up this way? Does he have to go to the 3rd floor from the second, or is he able to get to the ground floor? Me, I'm reading Malay Shemalia Kabilt Allah. You understood that your job was to go to the upper floor, so you always have to climb upstairs anyway. So therefore, that's that. Well, Dil Machadalia Kabale Shtealios Lo Kabale Teku. Maybe I was only calling myself to go up one flight, but not two. Okay, and that again is a Teku. Okay, we're gonna stop there, and let's see if we have another question. Question 13 is going to be in tomorrow's daf. Question TA 13. Abayis v'aliyah shel shnaim shenafel him yichon l'harbos o lemait b'chaloinais. That we'll see that in tomorrow's daf. Question TB 14. Abal bayis shehisker aliyah al mimutul ase says hamazeva shetav el yenav l'asar shlayanu akaris hatikra uma hastadim b'zeh. So the Gemara certainly alluded to this over here. It said that the bottom floor, let's see what it says over here. The person who lives on the bottom floor is responsible. Let's just find this piece. As we said, there is the mazeva. Why can't I find this? Just give me a second. Is it shur b'nehem? Okay. Okay, well, let me hold off on that. Let's go to question 12. Question 13. What is this question? Baal Bayis shehisker Eliyasu v'nivchasa haliyah kama tivchas ha'elyon v'hechayim Baal Bayis libnoisa mastadim b'zeh. So okay, there we finally got a question. So Rav says meruba Shmuel oimer ba'arba tfachim. Where Rav adam dar chetzel v'mat v'chetzel v'ma'ala. You can live half on one floor, half the other. Afikach ad shetivchas ruba, until the majority is broken. Yarid u'mishtamish b'bayis ma shenivchas min aliyah, for whatever was broken. With Shmuel, according to Shmuel, it says even if it's 4, ein adam dar chetzel v'mat v'chetzel v'ma'ala. Afikach miyad al bal bayis l'sakin. He has to fix the entire thing right away. Adkan.